Hi everybody, and welcome to Big Joe's Journal. My name is Joe Tilden, and I am the host of this program. And we're having a little technical difficulty here, but I think we'll remedy that in a minute. Oh well. Well, of course, we're on the eve now of town meeting day, and also what we call Super Tuesday. Comes every 4 years when 14 states, at least on the Democratic side, will be picking their candidate for whom they want for president. Now, of course, on the Republican side, it's pretty well decided that the incumbent will sweep to a huge win. The only opposition he has is the former governor of Massachusetts, Bill Weld, who was on the ballot here in Vermont and maybe Massachusetts. He was former governor of Massachusetts. And he's about the only contender that the incumbent president has. So in the Republican primary, I don't think too many people are going to pay too much attention to it. But the big news, of course, is on the Democratic side. And Super Tuesday will probably see maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 candidates dropping out. But we'll get back to that a little bit later. Here in Vermont, of course, it's town meeting day. And is the basic, what we call democracy at its purest. It's when folks get together in the town hall or local church or whatever, and they vote their town offices, they vote their town budget, their school budget, and whom they want to serve on their select board and so forth. Our good neighbors in Fairhaven, of course, will be electing a mayor. Mayor Lincoln is up for re-election for a second term, and she has 2 major contenders and a lot of minor contenders. So we'll see how that goes. As you know, Mayor Lincoln is a goat, and her main opposition comes from the police dog, who is a refugee from Chittenden County. And I'm sure the folks in Fairhaven that are supporting him feel that he'll bring some good economic ideas down from Chittenden County to implement them in Fairhaven. And the other opponent is a little dog named Muffy, who spends a lot of time visiting in schools and visiting people that are shut in and people in nursing homes and so forth. But Mayor Lincoln, I guess her platform is going to remain the same as it has been. And of course, the folks that vote, they're going to pay a little bit for a ballot, and that will go toward developing a playground at the elementary school in Fairhaven, which is a good cause. And also, the folks will get out, like, I'm not sure if they have any contests for the select board, but they will be, big thing, of course, will be voting on their budget. And the big thing in Fairhaven and all through that area, in Castleton and Orwell and Hubbardton, is the overall school budget, which is in excess of $60 million. And a lot of money, a lot of money. And the school board, as you know, this is a unified school board under Act 46. They say this is a necessary budget. Somewhere along the line, they want to build a new middle school and bring in your 7th and 8th graders into this new middle school. And of course, that is something the voters want to give very, very careful thought to. With the declining youth population, even in the Slate Valley district, at least one current school building that's in use will be vacated, and that's the village school in Castleton. So, you know, it's something the voters want to look at. Here in Rutland City, we're looking at a school budget in excess of $58 million. And when you take a look at the municipal budget, which is a little over $22 million, and you look at our dwindling population, we're down between 15,000 and 16,000 people now. At one time, we're up to 20. But population is declining, it's getting older. and we're down a bit. At one time, the city of Rutland had 8 representatives in the state legislature. Now we're down to 4. And probably after the current census, we may be down to 3. Meantime, Chittenden County continues to grow. The Brattleboro area is growing, and Bennington is growing somewhat. But growth in the state of Vermont seems to be up in the Chittenden area. Chittenden County, Franklin County, somewhat in Addison County. Also, the city of Rutland, folks are going to be electing or re-electing new school commissioners. I believe there are 6 people running for 4 seats. And the Board of Aldermen, 9 candidates seeking 5 seats, 5 incumbents running for re-election, and 4 challengers. I think that, along with good weather, because tomorrow is going to be a very, very warm day for March. I believe the temperatures are supposed to be up in the high 40s, and it may be raining a bit, but it should be a good turnout. Plus, it's also, as you know, a Democratic primary. Vermont is part of Super Tuesday, as they call it. And what happens when you go in to vote, the clerk is going to ask you whether you wish to take a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot, or no ballot at all. You can say, no, I don't want either one. That's your choice. I know some people are saying, well, if I take a Republican ballot or I take a Democratic ballot, it'll be recorded. Well, but when you get in the booth, you go in the voting booth, it's like going to confession. It's your business and your business only. And what you decide to do, that's up to you. But you'll have a choice of taking one ballot or the other, along, of course, with your city ballot. And you'll go to the voting booth, cast your ballot, and turn it in so it'll be recorded, and that's all there is to it. Voting is much easier now than it used to be. It wasn't so many years ago, you had a paper ballot. And some places still do have a paper ballot. And I know when I was living in Bellows Falls there, and I was on the, I was a JP down there, and I was on the local board, town of Rockingham, and I was also chair of the Democratic Town Committee. And we used to count votes. All the, as you know, or you may not know, the town of Rockingham, of course, is divided up into 3 small villages plus the town itself. So you have voters in Saxons River, voters in Bartonsville, voters in Bellows Falls. And all those ballots have to come in. When I was there, they came into the Armory. The Armory is now isn't there anymore. It's a senior housing complex. It was also where the folks of Bellows Falls voted. Now I believe they vote at the Masonic Temple, which is next door. But all the ballots would come in there, and you'd have representatives from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and would count ballots. And of course, by the time you had the final figure, there'd be a recount to make sure we had it right. Then as chair of the Democratic Town Committee, I'd have to sign off, and the chair of the Republican Committee would sign off. And that would be it. Now, of course, it's much faster. The ballots go in a machine, the machine records it, and what used to take maybe 2 to 3 hours, now they can do it up in about 10 minutes. And for those of you that want early returns and don't want to wait for the Rutland Herald to have the returns at least locally, will be here on Channel 21 shortly after the polls close. I imagine returns will be coming in around 7:20, 7:30. And Channel 21 will be carrying those returns. So if you want to see how your favorite candidate did and so forth, watch Channel 21. Now, of course, by the time most of you see this program, On Tuesday, we'll be getting toward the end of the day, and the polls will be closing at 7 o'clock. And of course, by Wednesday and Thursday, we'll all know who the successful candidates were and what budgets passed and what ones didn't, and what ones are going to, well, we'll have some idea what ones are going to be revoted on. Usually school budgets that are voted down, there's a special election later in the spring to see if they can pass again, or if they can pass after being voted down at town meeting. So, urge everyone to vote. Go to the polls, or if you have a town meeting, show up at your town meeting, and don't be afraid to speak up. You know, this is what democracy is. It's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And don't have any fear or any qualms about speaking up. You've got something to say, stand up and say it. And also respect the right of others to have their say. Somebody stands up, wants to support the current president, even though you might be tempted to stand up and shout them down, hold your peace, let them have their say. And hopefully they will show you the same respect. And you'll have the right to get up and say your piece. And hopefully also for public offices that are going to be voted from the floor and that are available, that there will be 2 or 3 people interested in each office. So you'll have an election. No elected office should go unopposed, and unfortunately there are a number of them that will. But any office that is where you have to elect the person to hold that office, of course, you know, you should have 2 or 3 candidates running. Now, a place where that is happening is going to be in Rutland Town, where I believe you have 3, maybe 4 people running for the office of town clerk and treasurer. And that should be a very, very close election. In fact, it may be so close, the possibility we may have to have a runoff later on. You know, if you can't decide on which one was elected. 4 candidates running for the job, which is good. It shows that in Rutland Town, democracy, at least as far as the office of town treasurer and clerk, democracy is flourishing. Not the case with the select board, where Mary Ashcroft, I believe, was running unopposed, unless somebody comes along with a write-in vote and makes a contest out of it. But right now, it does not appear that is going to happen. Also, something very interesting, of course, is, you know, one of the side judges, Mr. Lewis, has resigned, and the position is open. And Governor Scott is going to appoint since Mr. Lewis was a Republican, will appoint another Republican to fill that position. And the 2 candidates nominated are our retiring sheriff, Stephen Bernard, and longtime Rutland Town politician, and well, he's been in the legislature and he's taught here, there, and everywhere, and been on the select board. He wins and he loses. He's president of the Rutland Fair, Rutland County Agricultural Society for a while, and that's Don Chaffee. So every once in a while, you know, he pops up, and he is a candidate to be appointed assistant judge in Rutland County. That's between himself and retiring Sheriff Bernard. Well, with the sheriff retiring, that means the governor has to make another choice, and he'll have to appoint the next sheriff. And I imagine that will probably come from the department. And there are, I'm not sure how many have applied for it, but I would imagine there are 2 or 3, maybe 4 people that will be interested. And what will happen, I would imagine both county committees, both Republican and Democratic, will have to get together and nominate 3 candidates and send the names to the governor. And there's an interview process and all that, and Governor Scott will appoint the next sheriff to take office shortly after Sheriff Bernard steps down on March 15th. Well, locally, big day, weather's going to be good. Hopefully we'll have a huge turnout. And I would imagine with the Democratic presidential primary, it will be a huge turnout. Here in Vermont, I don't think there's much doubt but what Senator Bernie Sanders will win Vermont. And people are saying that Bernie has, at least the early polls, has the lead in California, which is the biggest number of block of votes, and Texas, which is the second largest block of votes. Massachusetts is also going to be voting tomorrow. They can't call it favorite son, but favorite daughter, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Bernie is also, of course, a candidate in Massachusetts. And if Bernie beats Warren in her own state of Massachusetts, I would think that would be the end of Elizabeth Warren's candidacy. After Super Tuesday, I think the field is going to shake down a bit. Joe Biden won big in South Carolina. He has momentum. He's got to do well tomorrow to keep his candidacy alive. There may be one or two that will be dropping out after Tuesday. I think after Super Tuesday, I think you're going to have 4 strong candidates still in contention for the Democratic nomination. That is Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, I think Mike Bloomberg, and another millionaire, Tom Steyer from California. Tom came in third in South Carolina, which was a bit of a surprise. Well, Mayor Pete, I think Super Tuesday, if he can't finish in the top 4, I think he's done. I think Amy will be done after Tuesday. Elizabeth Warren, she may be done after Tuesday. Depends how she does in her home state and how she does in some of the other states. I think if she wins any state, the only one she'll win will be Massachusetts. She may give them a run in California, but I think she's got to be within the top 4 to stay alive. I would say Warren, Mayor Pete, Senator Amy. Of those 3, they've got to finish up in the top 4, knock out Steyer or maybe even Bloomberg to stay viable. Another candidate that keeps plugging along, and that's the Congresswoman from Hawaii, Tiki Stoddard. You know, she hasn't got a ghost of a chance of getting the Democratic nomination. She only polls about 2 or 3%. But you got to give her credit for hanging in there and plugging. And I like her ideas. I think she's got a lot on the ball, and I think she would make, if not a president right now, I think she'd make a great vice president. Another one that's not in the running would make a great vice president, and that's Senator Kamala Harris of California. But Congresswoman Stoddard, she keeps plugging away, keeps getting her message out, but her message, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to resound. She's a veteran. She's flown helicopters. She's done 2 tours of military duty, one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. She's seen war firsthand. She brings a lot of experience. And she's a very, very strong advocate of us getting out of Afghanistan. Maybe pulling out of Iraq. They don't want us there. We double-crossed the Kurds. They should be our allies. If we're going to supply anybody with military weapons, it should be the Kurds. The Turks, maybe they're allies, maybe they're not. Some of our so-called allies have done horrible things to us, and we turn the other eye. But when it's Iran, boy, we go right after them. But you know, the current administration is trying to push under the rug the fact that an American citizen was captured in Turkey at the Saudi embassy in Turkey and was butchered. Butchered. And it was done with the approval of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, although he lies through his teeth when he says he had nothing to do with it. And to satisfy the United States, they had a little show trial over there where 5 people that had nothing to do with it or didn't even know what was going on, they had nothing to do with it, they're put on trial. I think we've got to be very, very careful who our friends are. We have supported Pakistan, millions, billions of dollars, our friends, and they were the ones that were giving sanctuary to bin Laden. Giving him sanctuary in Pakistan. And the doctor that helped us locate bin Laden, he's in jail in Pakistan. And we should do everything we could to get him out and bring him to the United States. He served our cause. One of the main people. We never would have caught up with bin Laden if it hadn't been for this guy. We probably never would have caught up with bin Laden. Well, this doctor, he's a Pakistani, put his life on the line, went in, treated bin Laden for some sort of medical situation, brought out enough DNA sample that we were able to identify it as bin Laden. And as you know, our Navy SEAL team went in and took care of him, took care of the situation. And Pakistan arrested this guy because he was cooperating with a foreign power. Tried him, found him guilty, put him in jail. So much for our trusted ally in Pakistan. Our trusted ally in Saudi Arabia, whom we are protecting. We pulled out of Saudi Arabia, Iran would run all over them. But we are protecting them. And we're protecting those kingdoms in that part of the world. Putting American lives online so those people can lead a life of luxury and get away with killing American citizens. And nothing is done. It's swept under the rug. Well, is Mr. Putin interfering in these coming elections? And the answer is yes. They're going to help Trump all they can, and also they're helping Bernie Sanders. Now, why are they helping Bernie Sanders? Well, I think the Kremlin has calculated that if Sanders is the Democratic nominee, then Trump has got an easy ride back to the White House. If Biden is the nominee, Trumpy is done. So there we go. Support Bernie, and we've reelected Trumpy. Well, there's a lot of concern about Bernie being the Democratic nominee. I don't think he's going to be. I think Super Tuesday is going to tell a big story. Biden can do real well. Then you've got, as I said, I think you're down to a 4-man race. You got Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, and the second tier, you got 2 billionaires, Bloomberg and Steyer. So as you look at the top 4, you have 2 billionaires, 1 millionaire, and 1 blue collar. The blue collar guy is Joe Biden. The millionaire is Bernie Sanders, who's going to give away the house, everything for free. Well, I think if you stop to think about it, nothing in this life is free. So you talk about free college tuition, free medical care, free this, free that, free the other thing. Somebody's going to pay for it. And who's going to pay for it? Well, as Bernie says, we're going to get that 1%. Yeah, and you'll get the 1% and the 2% and everybody all the way down through. And eventually it's going to boil down. It's going to the middle class. It's going to get stuck. And I think we have to make a very, very serious decision tomorrow. Say, who can best turn this country around? Who can heal the divide? And for my money, I think the only one who can do that is the former vice president. I know he's stumbled, his age, 77. Sometimes he has senioritis. But we've got to pull the country back together. This country, as you know, is more divided now It's probably the worst we've been divided since the Vietnam crisis and since the Civil War. And if we're going to move ahead and resume our position of leadership in the world, we've got to get the man that can do it. And for my money, that's Joe Biden. So I guess, I'm not leaving much doubt in my mind. I've already voted absentee ballot, so there's probably not much doubt in anybody's mind how I have voted. But I think Biden, and I think he's got to pick a female running mate. And for my money, that is Kamala Harris from California. Or, if he doesn't want her, Tiki Stoddard from Hawaii. They're both going to help the Democratic ticket because as women, they'll get out the female vote. And there are more female voters in this country than there are male voters. And of course, this year is a very special year for women voters. It's 100 years that women have had the right to vote. 1920 was the first national election in which women were able to vote and were able to hold public office and were able to own property. And here we are 100 years later, and we have made progress. And we are going to have a female president, probably 2024. If Joe Biden uses his head and he picks either Kamala Harris or Tiki Stoddard to be his running mate, Joe at 77 will be 81 at the end of 4 years and probably won't be up to running for another term, which means that his vice president, be it Senator Harris or Congresswoman Stoddard, would be the number one choice to be the Democratic nominee. And I believe she would be elected. Both of those ladies are electable. Despite Hillary Clinton being a little bit catty and saying things about him which were, well, at best, catty. I know Hillary is disappointed that she's not going to be the first female president, but she had her chance and she blew it, running a lousy campaign. In 2016, you look at the choice we had, we didn't have, well, I don't know just how to put it because I'm speaking in prime time here, but we didn't have a real good choice for president. We had someone whom the country didn't trust, and in some cases even hated, and we had another one who was nowhere near qualified for the job, nowhere fit to be president of the United States, and unfortunately, we elected that individual. Although the popular vote, it was Hillary by 3 million votes. But the Electoral College is what chooses who the president is, and as long as we have that, we may get some people that we really don't want in there. So, democracy is the greatest kind of government on earth. If people get involved. Democracy, as I've said before, is not passive, it's active. You've got to participate. You either participate by being a candidate, running, seeking positions of leadership, wanting to serve your community, or you do it other way, working for a candidate. But everybody in this country of age has the right to vote. And it made it easier and easier and easier for people to vote. The next big thing we've got to do really is make Election Day a national holiday so people won't have the excuse, well, I had to work that day so I couldn't get out and vote. Or I didn't feel like voting because my vote doesn't count. It's a national holiday. That excuse will kind of go by the boards. So if you haven't voted absentee, go to the polls tomorrow. Find the time to do it. The polls are open for some places, at least in Rutland City, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's some folks working those polls that are going to be getting up around 5 a.m. in the morning and putting in a long, long day. And they're there to serve you and to make it easy for you to vote. So vote for the candidate of your choice. Take a look at the budget. These are your tax dollars. Look at the budgets. Look at the city budget. Look at the school budget. In every town tomorrow, the biggest item on your town ballot is going to be your school budget. And take a good look at it. See if you think it can be cut, or if you look at it and say, well, let's go with it. So, turn out and vote tomorrow. May Almighty God in His infinite wisdom continue to bless these United States of America. God love you. Don't forget to vote. See you all next week.